Hey, Taylor Elwood here, and today I wanted to share a moment of clarity I had around letting go of what doesn't serve me in order to focus on what's really important, and really talk about the spiritual value of letting go. So, I've lately been I've lately been re-exploring the possibility of getting back into my coaching business and getting back into, teaching and training because I do love teaching people about things. But I realized I'm not ready. And I had this moment of clarity where I asked myself, well, why am I re-exploring all of these things? Because I had had this realization, I'd had this made this decision earlier this year that I was just going to focus on my writing, that that's what really matters, and on my spiritual work. So it was like, well, why am I focusing on this? Why am I holding on so hard to what was, to where I was a few years ago, even though I wasn't all that happy a few years ago? Why am I holding on so hard to this coaching practice? Why am I holding on so hard to this idea of teaching people different things and getting paid for it? And I came to the realization that that holding on to it gave me a sense of still feeling like I was in control. You see, last year I I had to let go of so many different things, and I really felt like I was in a tailspin. I felt like I'd lost control of everything, and I had to go through this very painful journey of rediscovering what really matters. And yet here I am again. Here I was again, going back toward this thing of trying to get back to something that had been that hadn't worked, where I'd been trying to force a fit. And I can't do that. It doesn't work for me. The power of letting go is realizing that you no longer have to hold on to something which isn't essential. And that's what I realized. I was holding on to the non-essential. I was holding on to things that no longer served me in any way, shape, or form. I mean, I do like teaching people things, but I'm not in a place where I can even begin to do that. I ended up talking with a friend about it yesterday, and he's like, yeah, you're still healing from what happened last year. You're nowhere near to being in a place where you can be ready to do those things. And he was right. So I realized this, and I realized that what I needed to do was get to the heart of why I was holding on so tight to this thing, to this idea of coaching people again, to this idea of teaching classes again, to to going back down into the madness of online marketing. And I realized it was about control for me. I wanted to feel like I was in control. I wanted to put everything back on my schedule. I wanted to really be back in control of my schedule in my life, because in a lot of ways I don't feel that way right now. I've really had to adjust to the reality of going back to work for someone else and having to make some changes and prioritize things. And I think part of what may has brought all this up is that, recently I got hired on full time at the job. And so it was kind of like, before then I was a contractor. So, it was temporary. But now suddenly it's like hitting me that, well, no, I'm going to be here for a while. I mean, this is the place where I'm settling in, and I'm going to be doing this work for a while. Who knows for how long? When you have that kind of realization where you're really recognizing that you're going to be somewhere for a while, that you're going to be doing these things, it can hit you hard. I mean, on the one hand, it's a good thing, but on the other hand, it's kind of like, well, this is where I'm at. How do I square that with myself? How do I feel comfortable with myself as a person? And the answer to that really is that I have to be clear with myself about where I stand in my journey. And I think in general that people need this, that when we're struggling to hold on to something from the past, when we're struggling to have something that was, really what we're saying is we're trying to be in control. Now, you might say, well, Taylor, isn't magic all about control? And I would say not always. Magic isn't always about control. Magic sometimes is about letting go. It's about having the experience, being part of the journey, doing the things that need to be done. And in my particular case, that's what really stood out to me. I mean, here I am. I'm trying to control this situation by going back to where I was, to what hadn't worked. Instead of letting go and embracing fully this unknown journey that I'm on to where I'm rediscovering myself as a writer. Never mind that I've taken a lot of joy and pleasure out of it. I think I just had this reaction to this other life change, and I felt like I needed to somehow get back control. And I was looking for a shortcut or something or some way to get back to where I was, even though where I was had not served me. And that's the thing. When we hold on to what doesn't serve us, we're doing it out of fear. We're doing it out of a place of scarcity in a way, because we're trying to hold on so hard to where we were because it's familiar, it's safe, it's comfortable, even if it's at the same time exactly the things we don't need. And that's what was happening with me. I was trying to hold on too hard to where I had been instead of letting go. I was focusing on the non-essential and ignoring the essential. The non-essential in this case being the coaching and the training and teaching classes. That's non-essential for me at this point. It's not important anymore. It's not something that serves me. The essential being my spiritual practice and my writing, and both the fiction and nonfiction, and exploring that and letting that carry me to wherever it needs to go. And what I really had to do today, this moment of clarity I had, was I have to let go of needing to be in control of this experience, of this journey. And I know that runs counter in some ways to a lot of how we talk about magic. When people talk about magic, they talk about willpower and, creating results. And I've certainly done that. And I mean, I still do, I still will, and still do sometimes. I mean, that is one of the reasons we practice magic. But sometimes what we have to do is also learn how to let go of control. We have to learn to let go of what we're holding on to, because what we're trying to achieve, we're holding on to it for the wrong reasons. I realized for myself that if I went back into coaching now, if I went back to trying to teach classes on magic or anything else like that, I would be doing it for the wrong reason. It wouldn't be for you, it'd be for me. And I'm not saying that there's a bad thing that'd be for me. I mean, there's always going to be some self-interest when we're doing anything. But when I realized that it was mostly going to be about me and that it wasn't really about serving you, I realized it wasn't the right thing to do. I was doing this because I was afraid of some of the recent changes that I had. And I was afraid of the fact that I was accepting the very real possibility that I'm going to be working for somebody else for a long time to come. Because I don't have any clear answer about how I get from where I'm at now to being fully self-employed again. I wish I did, but I don't. The only thing I really have right now is my writing. That's what I have. That's what's carrying me forward, and the magical work. But the magical work is its own thing. And I don't think that if I ever do go back to self-employment, that beyond writing books of magic, I don't think that I ever really will go back to trying to make the magic the mainstream of income or anything like that, because it's not viable. Something I read a couple months back asked the question, is your audience willing and able, to do whatever? And they might be willing, but if they're unable, then they can't afford it, then it's not going to happen. Or if they're unwilling, but they're able, it's still the same thing. And I think the same thing applies to ourselves. Are we willing and able? In my case, I asked myself, am I willing and able to go back to teaching? And I realized I'm not. I've spent this last month exploring, this topic, and I think it's really, I'm taking this 30-day business challenge, and I think it was helpful. I mean, in some ways, it really provided this moment of clarity, for example, and it also helped me see some things that I could do better now in terms of marketing my writing. But it made me realize more than ever that I have to go about this my own way, that my journey has to be experienced, that I have to open myself to that journey, and that trying to get back to where I am or where I was before isn't going to help. It's not going to serve me. It's certainly not going to serve anyone else. I have a saying that I say, which is that you have to take care of yourself before you can take care of others. And what that really means is that if you don't take care of yourself, you can't effectively take care of other people. And in a lot of in a real sense, this entire last year has been about taking care of myself in some ways. I went through this moment where I had to let go of everything that I had, and I had to go back out there into the world and get a job and all that other stuff. And what I really had to do is I had to rediscover who I am, and I'm still in this process of rediscovering who I am. Well, part of how you discover who you are is you let go. That's the power of letting go, because what it does is it helps you stop holding on to what isn't working. Stop holding on to where you're trying to force a fit that doesn't fit. It helps you acknowledge with humbleness that where you are is where you need to be. As hard as that might be, as scary as it might be. When we live in the moment, and when we choose to let it unfold before us and bring us the experiences that we need to have, eventually we come to where we need to go. But if we get so fixated on trying to get there that we ignore the journey, we lose out. And for me, I realized that like this last 30 days that I'd kind of gone back to this place of obsessiveness, not to the same degree as before, but I'd gone back to it in a way. And it just really kind of helped me look at that and take a step back and see, okay, this isn't going to work. I just need to focus on the writing. I just need to focus on living my life. I just need to focus on my spiritual practice and not worry about how I'm going to get to X. I don't know how I'm going to get there. I don't need to know right now. But how hard is it to say that? I'll tell you, it's very hard. It is very hard to say that. It is very hard to be in this place where you say, I don't know how I'm going to get where I want to go. We want certainty in our lives. We want to know that we want to have a map. We all do. I don't know anyone who doesn't want that. But sometimes you just have to go out there without a map. You just have to go out and have the experiences. And that's where I'm at. I'm in this place where I'm continuing to rediscover who I am. And part of that is letting go of who I've been, because that who I was doesn't serve me any longer. When you look at this in relationship to your magical practice, it's also about learning to let go of the magical practices that no longer serve you. You can learn a lot of different things over the years, and at a certain point, at the same time, you need to know when to let go. Really, I think in a sense, what this is really about is about letting go of the identity that you have or have held on to in order to discover wherever you're going to be. I mean, in a very real sense, I've had to let go of a number of identities in the last couple of years and rediscover this identity of who Taylor Elwood is and what is Taylor Elwood doing. I'm no longer Taylor Elwood, the author. Yes, I know I've written books, but I'm not going out there and presenting at conferences. I'm not teaching classes in workshops anymore. I don't know if I ever will again. I'm not Taylor Elwood, the business coach. I've let that go too. I'm not trying to help clients get their businesses figured out. I'm just Taylor Elwood, the writer. I'm writing. And it's not even necessarily for the goal of getting a book out there. I mean, yeah, there probably will be books out there. In a huge way, I'm just rediscovering who Taylor Elwood, the writer, is. And I have to trust that journey. But trusting that journey is scary, because when you don't know where you're going with it, it's like, oh my gosh, where am I going? It's the same thing as a magician. I'm Taylor Elwood, the magician, magical experimenter, whatever. But I'm really rediscovering what that means. I'm on this journey right now to rediscover what that is and where I go with it. I had up until a year and not a year ago, I'm going to say a little before that, I had these fixed identities in mind. And I'd gotten to the point where I was doing this ridiculous marketing. I used to do these things where I was like, I'm Taylor Elwood, the mad scientist and magical experimenter. Well, I still am a magical experimenter, but I'm not a mad scientist. And I don't go around saying I'm Taylor Elwood, the magical experimenter any longer. I'm just Taylor Elwood. Here I am. I gotten to that point where I was taking on these particular identities because it was, I'd taken this marketing class where it's like, well, you have to take on an identity in order to grab people. Well, maybe you do. I don't know. But it never really worked, I don't think. It just seems kind of silly now. And I think that's really kind of the thing, is that a lot of times what we're holding on to is just silly. But we're holding on to it because it's familiar and it's safe. Let me tell you, friends, it's okay to let go. I'm not saying it's easy. And I'm not saying it's not scary, because it is scary. But when you let go, you stop letting yourself be defined by other people, and you stop letting yourself be defined by your failures and everything else that you've put on yourself. And that's where I'm at. Just continuing to let go and rediscover who Taylor Elwood is and what Taylor Elwood is about and where I want to go from here in order to discover that. There's no easy answers. And I think anyone who offers you an easy answer is just selling you a load of shit. Plain and simple. So just be honest with yourself and let go of whatever you're holding on to right now that is not serving you. Let it go. And embrace that uncertainty. Embrace the journey where it's at, and don't get too fixated on where you'll be. You'll get there. Trust me on that. After all, we're still alive. We're still here. And even when you die, you're still going somewhere. You're just leaving this, you're just letting go of this to go on to that next adventure. So just let go. You'll get wherever you need to go. And saying that as much for me as I am for you, because I need that reminder a lot, because I'm not always good at letting go, as is obvious by the fact that I spent 30 days trying to rethink, could I make my coaching business and the magical teaching and all that viable again? Well, no, I'm not in that place right now. And that's okay. Someday, maybe not. But here I am. And that's what matters, is that I'm here right now, doing my thing, on my journey. And that's all I need to be. All right, so thanks for watching, and have a great day, great weekend, whatever. Bye.